All right, I think we are running. Are we running? Let us see. Let me just check it out here real quick, make sure we're running, and then we will start our show because looks like we are running. Hello there. Reconnecting, let's see here. Reconnecting. There we are. Yes, hello. Hi. SolutioPodcast.com. Colin Davis here. SolutioPodcast.com. ShadowTechAlchemy.com. Just before I went live here, the system that I set up, of course, didn't work or whatever, so we're back. And I'll give you a little introduction because this is a new show. And Melissa, Marion, and I, we've done, all kinds of different projects, and now many of you know Melissa is not with us anymore, unfortunately, incredibly unfortunately, and so I have to continue on the work, and so after working for the whole year of 2025 on a movie about Melissa, which you can find at melissamarimovie.com, now I'm doing this new show, Solutio. So what this is this is like what the title says. It's a place for inner alchemists. And forgive me here. I got to make sure that we're running here. So it looks like we're actually not running. Are we running? And let's check it out. Sorry about that. Yeah, we are. We are running. Okay, great. After I do this a little more often, we'll get better at it. And I hate to bog down the beginning of a stream. People are coming in or they're watching it later and they're like, you want to find out what this is and if you're going to tune into it right off the bat. And so I like to, get right into it. And so, but it does look like we're going. And as I get it going, it'll get easier and better. It's a pretty complicated to actually do a live stream and have people call in and all of that. And so been working through that. So yeah, so what we're doing here is this is a place for people who are seriously working on themselves through whatever system. I use the term inner alchemy, which kind of points to Jungian psychology, Jungian individuation. That's kind of what it points to. But really, any path of self-development, any path of spiritual enlightenment, so to speak, is what we're working with here. So yeah, so while the world is running around like chickens with their heads cut off, the modern world, we're taking our inner development seriously. Everybody's thinking, can we get some better leaders? Can we get some more mature leaders and some people who would stop lying and some more ethical people and all of that? But the average individual is not refining themselves. They're not going and finding all of their lower nature that's getting projected out into the world. They're just walking around mainly unconscious and expecting other people to clean up the society for them. And that goes nowhere. As we can see, that doesn't do anything. So it's up to us as individuals, to basically mature ourselves. Now, not everybody is going to take this particular path, but I do think that there's a lot of what we deal with in this path. And if you just go back to Jung, and we kind of just use Jung as kind of our primary example, and we're not copying him necessarily or really doing exactly, but if you just use that as a model, Jung and the whole system that he developed as a model, and you look at that, there's a lot in there that applies to everybody, right? And so we're just taking the development of ourselves and the development of human consciousness, the development of human maturity, human maturation. We're just taking it seriously. And we're just saying, okay, well, we're the ones to do it. It's us. We're the ones to do this. It's not going to be nobody else. It's us. We're the ones who are going to mature. We're the ones who are going to, over generations, become the new class of leaders. It has to be that way, because otherwise, it's just entropy and degradation from here on out. So, like when we think about the term elite, we think of the elite as depraved people often. The red pill folks do. But the elite can also be seen as people who are more spiritually or psycho-spiritually advanced, right? And so we're basically in that process of becoming elite human beings, wherever we come from, whatever class or position in life we come from. That's what we're doing here. And so we're taking complete responsibility for ourselves from the internal level first, because that's where everything starts. That's where your behavior starts. That's where everything comes from, is your individual psychological, psychospiritual programming, your movie of life. It's yours. It's your scripting. It's your psyche. And from there, that's what you project into the world. Those are the lenses through which you perceive the world and through which you take action and that determine your behavior. The locus of all action and belief and consciousness is your particular mind body. So everything that has to do with development starts with you. And so that's the basic kind of starting point here. But yeah, so this show is a place where, I'm always going to be telling you about stuff that Melissa and I developed, and talking about shadow work a lot, because that was, it was a big part of what we were doing, is investigating the shadow, understanding the shadow, using a holistic perspective to understand the shadow, but also and to develop shadow work practices. We use them on ourselves and everything. But I want this place to be a place, more of a community, rather than just me lecturing all the time, which I can do easily. It's no problem. And I'll do some of that. But I really want folks to call in and share their experiences and chime in, and I can learn things too. Of course I can. In fact, I feel like now that Melissa is not in my life, and or not even on the planet, it's like I feel like I'm moving into another phase of this work, and this was the last 12 years was this big shadow work phase, and then there's been different stages I could tell you about in my life that kind of have led up to where I am, but now I feel like I'm moving into I've said this many times. Oh yeah, we're moving into the albedo now. We're moving out of the negrito and into the albedo, and it's just like, nope, it just keeps on dragging on. But this whole thing with Melissa and her illness and her passing and all of this was just so heavy and so big, and it's so initiatory. It's been such an initiation for me that I feel that is actual evidence of a shift into another level of my development. And so this is where I was telling Stephanie, my friend Stephanie Mo Davis, that it's feeling like, and I'm getting the synchronicities and the input that's showing me that, I've been very kind of careful with everything that you would consider spiritual, and talking about astral and the ethereal and or whatever all the different spiritual auric fields are, and all of this kind of stuff. And I'm still, this is like a whole. I've been very skeptical, or not skeptical, but I know that there are higher levels of consciousness. I'm absolutely. Of course. But how to describe them, and then how to do actual work within these higher fields, it gets kind of sketchy. And there's a lot of different systems, east and west. The Western ones are really kind of, have become very new agey and kind of mythological and fictional. The Eastern ones, I think, are more solid in a way, but they're not totally compatible, at least with my Western mind. And so I kind of have to figure out how to navigate these fields, and how to just trying things and practicing things and using my intuition and using synchronicities to kind of take me where I need to go with this. But I kind of do feel like I'm kind of moving a little bit out of shadow world. And so just going to go with the flow and see how that goes. But we were talking about this, about how, we come from red pill world, and red pill world where you awaken to the ubiquitous nature of evil, to the integrated nature of evil in the world. And then you see it everywhere. It's like you put on the glasses and then you see it everywhere. That is the prison planet, the Gnostic prison planet perspective. That's actually a legitimate perspective. And it's when you wake up, so to speak, because everybody's kind of walking around half conscious, half asleep. And then there's different ways of waking up. You can have a very high level kind of spiritual experience where your whole state, you tap into non-dual reality or whatever, and you can have that kind of awakening. But that's kind of a state embodiment of it. It's like a particular state of consciousness that you get in, and then you kind of fall back down to your normative state after that. Whereas with something like this, with the red pill awakening, it's a recognition of a layer of perception that's available to all people, and it doesn't require any kind of like special state like that. Although it's incredibly shocking, but it's a lower level. It's synonymous with the idea of the Jungian shadow, and of waking up to your own shadow and seeing your own projections that you couldn't see before. And so that's kind of like the internal version of this. And then the external version, the red pilling, where you see how you don't realize this at first, but that we have created another layer of, you could call evil or shadow, that's permeating the entire world, that is the collective byproduct of all of our projections. Now, it takes a while to figure that out. That's a psychological understanding. But at first, you just see this world of depravity and evil out there, and you say, whoa, I couldn't see this before. And then you go down the rabbit hole, so to speak, and you try to figure out, what is this all about, and who are the players behind all these conspiracies, and you know how it goes, and you just go down there. And that is actually, I think, I think that's a necessary and valid stage of awakening that may not have always been necessary in different periods, in different societies, in different periods in time. But for our time, I believe it is a necessary initiation. And then you have to spend time there, in the underworld, so to speak. And then you're awakening to all of the control schemes and all of this that were in place. You recognize that basically you're in a kind of a cage of sorts, some kind of a societal matrix. And just like the movie, this is where the term red pill comes from, obviously, from the movie The Matrix. And you have to go through that. And you have to grapple with that, and you have to integrate that, and you have to go through that stage. But that is just one level of the curriculum that you're here to learn in Earth School. And that whole prison planet layer is true. It is actually true. Those kinds of systems are in place, and that stuff is happening. But that's just one layer of perception. It's like, okay, you saw that, great, that's in there, but that's not the only thing that's going on at all. That's just one layer. And so you don't want to stay there for the rest of your life, right? And so when you're in that layer, you're like, oh my God, I just woke up. I'm in a prison. What is this? I can't get out. Here's the bars. Everything's blah, blah, blah. There's the guards. They're blocking the doors, you know? But, you know, you didn't even realize that the guards weren't even going to do anything when you walk out the door. The door was unlocked. And they don't even do anything. They look scary, but they don't even do anything. Because everybody is just so focused on, you know, the prison and getting mad at the prison guards and the food that you're eating and all of this. And it's just a stage. And so while you're in that stage though, because you know, I'm really, like I was telling you, I'm really just on the cusp of, you know, of passing from that stage. And while you're in that stage, while you're in red pill world, you just turn it around and go, okay, so I saw this whole layer of integrated evil in the society. Wow, I saw that. I studied that. I you know, that's all real. That's reality. Okay, I saw that. Now, flip it around and turn that same telescope that you're using onto yourself, onto your own psyche, because that's where it's all coming from. It's kind of both, inner and outer. But turn that focus around and start in the same way that you're looking for everything evil out there, and you're looking for the pedophilia out there, and you're looking for the assassinators out there, and you're looking for the fraud and the theft out there. Turn it around and find all of those psychological impulses that lead to that behavior in yourself. That's the shadow awareness. That's where the shadow work comes in. Because everything that you are seeing that's evil and depraved in the world is just a function of psychological drives that are in all of us. And we all have a little bit of that stuff, that Machiavellianism in there, that psychopathy in there, or the sexuality, then all of the stuff that we think is evil that we call evil in the world. Some of that is in all of us. And so we got to clean that stuff out of ourselves. We got to integrate those aspects of ourselves, get into touch with those and pull them from, it's like they're underground. It's like in the, below the volcano, and they're just leaking out. And we got to go underground, and we have to tap into that material, and we have to start kind of spoon feeding it into our consciousness. And then that releases its energy, and then we don't have to do this projection game, because projection is a knee-jerk kind of projection is an automatic psychophysiological method of dumping your shadow material, your lower nature, into the world. And so, hold on, let me get the Restream thing here going. And, oh, I see, I was on the wrong thing. Okay, Stephanie says thanks. Yeah, thanks, Stephanie, and everybody that's on there, thank you. Still getting this figured out, so yeah, forgive me for getting it. I actually I started the show using, OBS and not having to use Zoom, and it was working, and then suddenly didn't work, and I had to go use Zoom again. So I will get it figured out, and within the next couple weeks, I'll have all the bugs worked out and everything. But yeah, and so so that's what it is. And so I have this video on the Shadowtech Alchemy YouTube channel that is called 2 Paths for the Red-Pilled Initiate. And I recommend you guys look at that, because basically it says, okay, so you're red-pilled, and I just kind of explained the whole thing, and many people probably know what that all is. And so you're red-pilled, and then you're going down the rabbit hole, you're doing all that stuff, and that's got all kinds of pitfalls, and there's all kinds of, psychosis and everything that you can run into, and that gets very, Hall of Mirrors type stuff. So that itself is a, like I said, it's a stage you need to go through, and you're testing your discretion, you're testing your magician capacities, and you're testing your intuition. And because you're in this kind of semi-unconscious place, and it's a big projection ground for everybody's unconscious junk. And so you got to go in there and spend time in there and all of that. But then the point is that often when you go into red pill world, you find out all the dark stuff, and then it makes you mad, and then you say, I better do something to stop this. So you become some kind of an activist, whether it's like a keyboard warrior, or you're maybe actually doing something physical in the world. You become some kind of an activist, and you're trying to, expose the new world order and all that stuff. And so that's what I call the red-pilled shadow warrior. And, that's your Alex Jones, and that's all the people that are on that path and everything. And that's a valid place, like I'm saying, and it's a necessary stage, and you kind of can't rush out of it. And as long as it's pulling on you, you're gonna be in that stage. But just recognize that there are other stages, and kind of keep a lookout for when your state starts to indicate to you that it may be time to start, going in another direction. And that other direction I'm saying here is what I call the psychospiritual alchemist. That's where you take, like I just said, everything that you're seeing out there that's evil, and you find the inner correlate of it in yourself. So that's the shadow work process. Now you're in the world of Jungian individuation or internal alchemy, however you do it. We're Westerners, and so Jung is kind of our first place. A lot of people start with that, but however that is, and however that takes you, you go on the inner journey, and then you start changing your reality through changing your inner state, just like I was saying earlier. So these are kind of like two paths for the red-pilled initiate. So anyway, this show then is not actually a show where we talk about red pill stuff, what this or that oligarch is doing, or what the president is doing or not doing, or what Vatican is doing or not doing, or about the chemtrails or any of this other stuff, I know it all. I've been down that rabbit hole for literally 20 years. And so although I would say that, like I said, there are so many people and groups and tribes, you could say, of people who talk about spiritual stuff, even inner development, even seriously, or even the Jungians, but they're not red-pilled. And so they've never put on the glasses. They've never awakened to the dark side of the external reality. They're still in cognitive dissonance. They're still naive about all of that. And so they're bypassing that. And like I said, I think that it's absolutely necessary to go through that in our time to really develop, because there's so much of that out there. You have to have some kind of an understanding of what that is. But so there's so many spiritual affiliations, tribes, whatever, where you can go talk about the kind of stuff that Melissa and I were doing and working on and everything, inner development stuff, and but not have any real connection to the whole red pill world. And then when you bring that in, when that interfaces, people kind of have to turn it off, or they have to they have to try to hide from that. Now that's decreasing now. The spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual communities are becoming increasingly red pilled, because you just have to now. It's just everywhere. But so I'm not really in that camp of the, it's a lot of boomers really that are still not red pilled. And I'm not really in that camp. I'm a Gen Xer. And then I'm also not really bothering on this show with talking about all the red pill stuff and all the shadow stuff that we already know about. So I'm on the other path, the inner alchemist path, where we are red pilled, but we're now, like I said, turning the mirror around. So that's what this is. And I'm hoping that people who have also found this state of being on their own, or that are moving into it, they're transitioning out of red pill world into this, will come around and hang out and share their experiences or learn something from me or from the other callers. And so I actually have now, I've set it up to where you can actually call in to me. So I got my phone here, my other phone, and I'll actually put it on the screen right now, because we've only been talking for like 30 minutes. I can talk to you about some more stuff. In fact, I think I will. I'll talk to you about some more stuff that's in my notes, and then I guess probably in 20 minutes or something like that, I'll put it on there right now on the screen. I'll put the banners on. So what it is, and then we'll go back to what I was saying, and then we'll come back. SolutioPodcast.com. If you go there, you'll see all the information about this broadcast. You'll see the call-in numbers and the instructions and all that, and everything is there. But you don't really even have to go there right now. If you have WhatsApp, and you're used to using WhatsApp wherever you are in the world, right there on your screen, you'll see there's the phone number, and you can just text me. Just text me through WhatsApp at that number with your name, and then I'll call you back. I'll call you back on WhatsApp. And if you're in the US or Canada, I have a Google Voice number. And so you just text me at that number. And is that how it would work on Google Voice? I have to think. If you text me on that number, right? Yeah, exactly. Text me on that number, and then I'll call you back, And so if there's, a few people that want to get in, I'll just try to figure out who was first, and I hope I can get that right. But those are the two numbers that you can use. I guess I'll just leave it up. Okay. So whoever texts first, and we'll see if people are shy and if it takes a while for people to kind of come in, because not everybody, you want to listen to a podcast or something, and you're not, necessarily ready to call into a show and start talking about your experiences or whatever. But those who are, there you go. And you can just go to the website if you want to try it next week. And I'm also going to be doing this the first and third Saturdays of the month for people who are in Europe. And so that will be at 1 p.m. Central Time, which is 8 p.m. in Germany, for example. And so my main audience right now is in the United States, or United States, Canada, in this hemisphere, but or in this continent. But I just working on developing it. And so I'm going to give that opportunity to people who are in Europe so they'll have a chance to call in too. And mostly in Europe, people use WhatsApp. So anyway, that's how that's done. And yeah, so there you go. And in fact, let's see. Okay, somebody did just text me, but it was separate from this. All right, so let me actually give you guys a little bit of stuff that I have from my notes. And as we go on with this show, I probably won't do so much kind of background info as to what we talk about and what the show's about and my perspective and all that. That's kind of because this whole thing is new. But yeah, you know, this is something. I got something for you. So okay. When you wake up, right? When you wake up and to red pill reality, or maybe you've just had some kind of, maybe you're not even on red pill path yet, but you had some kind of awakening, some kind of an experience. Maybe you got sick and almost died or whatever, and then you used some kind of a method or system or diet or something to cure yourself, or whatever it is. Something happened to you to break you out of your existing perspective, and now all you can see is that thing. So red pill is a good example of this. You know, you saw the New World Order, you saw the whole COVID thing, you saw all this, and you didn't see it before, and then you want to share that with everybody. You want to share that with your family and your friends and all of that, and then you find out that they don't want to know. These days, it's actually getting easier to find family and friends that have already seen all the red pill stuff. But 20 years ago, when 9/11 happened, or it happened 25 years ago, but I woke up to it in about 2005, and it was very difficult to find people who would listen to you. And you're like, oh my God, you know, you got to see how this was all orchestrated and blah, blah, blah. And you're taking them through the whole thing. And they just can't go there. They're not ready to go there. And then you have to go through all of the pain of that, oh, you don't trust me, or what are you afraid, or, you know, getting angry at them for not listening. You're just an idiot, blah, blah, blah. And you got to go through all that stuff. And then you're just on this thing, and you've found this thing, and you got to show everybody this thing, and most people don't want to listen. Or with the health thing, you know, something miraculous happened, and you want to just show everybody this one thing that you did that worked for you, and if only the whole world could see this, then the world would be saved. And so you get into this kind of missionary, this evangelical proselytizing mindset. And you know, I understand that, been there. And but the thing is that it's if people didn't share their findings with others, you know, then we'd all be lost. We have to share with each other, right? That just has to happen. We communicate with each other. This is how culture evolves. So it's not that you shouldn't share this material with people, but you have to understand that people are at different levels of awakening. And when they're ready for that, if they're ever ready for that, if that's even on their timeline, then they will come back to that, or maybe you'll show them something. And then a year or 2 or 5 years later, somebody else will show them something. And then they'll be like, you know, I remember actually, I've been shown this a couple times now. Maybe I should look into this. And that's when they're ready for it. And so the way you share information with people is very important. And so you want to just, in my opinion, is if you want to, you know, make your case for something, for some theory, some practice, some method, some perspective, do it and do it well. Write up a blog post or write a book or do a video explaining what it is that you've discovered and everything, and be as rigorous with everything and detailed and careful and conscientious and as high fidelity as you can be, right? And then put that out, and then let people come to it when they're ready for it. And you'll find that some people will say, wow, thank you, that really helped, thank you. And that most people won't say that. They're not ready for it, or they're never supposed to get that. And it's not even because they're sheeple that are never going to wake up. It's because they're in a different class than you. They're on a different test. They're going through different stages. They're learning different lessons than you are. And like I was saying earlier about these different perspectives, we're all in our own reality tunnel. We're all in our own earth school. And so what you're supposed to learn, what you're supposed to work through, is not necessarily what I'm supposed to learn or work through, or vice versa. And so you just want to share material with people in good faith. And if you really feel like it's so important and you really have the energy for sharing and sharing and sharing, well, then do that. But don't pass judgment on people if they're not snapping into your worldview immediately, because of these reasons I'm explaining here. And so you want to just be as compassionate and as open and just don't turn it into a big evangelical thing, because you know how that is. I mean, when it's somebody else is, you know how it is, and so that's that. And I recently have ran into some folks, and I'm always running into folks that are doing this, because I've been there before myself, saying, everybody wake up. It's like reminds me, I don't know if how many people know this or remember this, but the Body Snatchers, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the second one. It's probably in the first one too. In fact, it is in the first one for sure, where the guy is just running around in the streets, just saying, listen to me, they're here, they're coming here, they're here, the pods, blah, blah, blah. And he's and runs to the police station. He's trying to convince everybody that the world is being taken over by some kind of a weird alien invasion that's coming through plants. And it's like, what the? And it just looks so crazy. And so that's how you look when you turn when you turn your particular perception, your little myopic little thing, into your religion and start throwing it on everybody else. So that's something I wanted to to mention there. And now go back to it a little bit. The Creative Witness says, honestly, the red pill warrior state was obliterated in 2020 for me. Okay, right. Okay. Yeah, well, you'll have to tell us more about how and why that happened, because, yeah, it's a phase. And so, so back to so I just wanted to say that about, not turning your realizations into a religion and then getting mad at everybody else because they won't practice your religion. And I actually have interfaced with a couple gentlemen who are both very smart guys and mean well recently, one on Facebook and one through email exchanges, who found my material one way or another. The first guy was on Facebook, and he was very, very, he was attacking another woman. And he was just doing this thing that I see some men do. And it's just so nasty. And just this, he's got negative mother complex, and he hasn't worked it out, and he's not really working on himself he's not working on that, at least. Let's say this guy is not working on that. And he's extremely well studied, and he was talking to this other woman by pasting quotes from Carl Jung and other philosophers, just like 15 at a time, just boom, take that. And then he'd be like, yeah, because of that, I'm right. And then it would be like, what? Blah, 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 blah. And then he'd say, boom, another 15 quotes. Because of that, I'm also right. It's like, and then you try to get into it with him, and it's just all this stuff, and you realize this is a smart person. This person is studying, and this person is smart, but this person is not very self-aware, or at least they're not self-aware of these aspects of themselves. And so I try to come into those situations, and I try to go, okay, I try not to be reactive, obviously, right? That's the first thing you're gonna do is when you find yourself in a conflict, is you do everything you can to respond but not react, and not get your own complexes all tied up in the field. And so, but that's difficult when there's a resonance. When your complex and their complex are resonating, you're gonna have some level of success or failure with that. But so I'm interacting with this guy. He starts messaging me through Facebook Messenger, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole with this guy because he needs some feedback. And it was just couldn't get anything through to him. He was just like in projection mode, and it was just like everything was, all about his thing, and so that was it. And but what I realized was, I said, I finally, at the end of the conversation, text exchange, I recognized. I said, oh, I get it. I see it now. Oh, okay. This guy is he's a reflection of aspects of me that are still there, that I'm still working out. And so I don't act like that guy. Obviously I don't act like that guy. Well, not obviously, but I don't act like that guy on Facebook or anywhere else. I'm more awake than that. But there's some of that guy still in me, right? There's some of Mr. Smart Guy, doesn't need to learn anything from anybody else. He's the teacher. He's going to tell you how it is. Better listen to him. There's some of that still in me. I'm aware of it. I'm recognize that that's, a universal property, especially in men. But I'm like, okay, oh, gotcha, thanks. So he's a movie character that showed up, playing aspects of me. And then once I got that, I thanked him. And I said, hey, oh, gotcha. Thanks for showing me what I needed to see. And he didn't understand me, but anyway. And then I had another exchange with another gentleman that was much kinder than that, but still it was still just like, this is my truth, it needs to be your truth. This is my truth, it needs to be your truth. And I was a little reactive, not very reactive, but a little bit. And tried to give him suggestions and stuff, how, this approach is not going to work with people. And everybody's in their own class and on their own curriculum. And I think with the other gentleman, I think maybe some of what I said maybe got through. But again, so that's another mirror for me to see how why did these guys just show up like that, just bang bang, just a week. I haven't had those kind of conversations in a long time, and they just show up. And they show up around the same time that I'm starting this show. And so it's like, oh, I see. Yeah. Don't become the religious preacher. Don't do that. Don't say everybody needs Solutio, everybody needs shadow tech alchemy, everybody needs my 4 quadrants of shadow work that I have, and blah, 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 and all this. Everybody has to read my book, blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. Just offer it out, like I was saying earlier. I turned this recognition into a little bit of advice for you guys, but it's all art. And that's what I was telling this other guy. It's just all we're all doing is we're just artists. We're just life artists, right? And because there are universal truths, but there's a lot more subjective truths. And all universal truths are seen through your lens. So even though there are universal truths, you won't even know them in their purest form because they have to make it through your psyche with all your filters and baggage and everything, biases and everything. So all we really have in the end is our artistic creations, our semi-fictional creations. And so artists don't force their art onto the world. And they don't claim that, just every once in a while you find some kind of totally inflated, grandiose, rock star that thinks that everybody, their music is going to save the world and everybody should listen to their music. But generally, 99.9% of musicians or painters or writers, poets, whatever, they're just doing what they're doing and they're just offering it. And they're saying, hey, if anybody likes this, here it is. This is what I made. Here you go. They're not trying to force anybody into liking their art. But when it comes to philosophy and ethics and science and all these more, logos-oriented stuff, people fall into that mode. I have to try to read back your handles, right? Your YouTube handles, and so like, what does that say? His Hesmanification. Hesmanification. Oh, I don't know. Is that? I'm highly educated, Oxford, UK, and thought I knew it all. My awake friends these days are working class with no formal education, but they have so much of a better understanding of what you speak. Right. Well, yeah, because it's, you could say the same thing for people for Christians, let's say, right? You could say the same thing for Christians or anybody that's a devout religious, that's whose worldview is created out of some religious belief system. That's their operating system. That's their main system of perception. And so when you come at them, everything's going to come through that. Well, academia kind of does the same thing. It's kind of taken the place for the religious belief system, the religious operating system. And so over the last, 50, 60, 70 years, it's kind of, the academics have fallen away from being Christians, and they've seen that as that's mythology, or that's an old, more primitive way of looking at the world, and we've graduated past that level, and so we're now at this more logical, rational level. And in a way, that's true. They have kind of graduated to a more into the modern rational worldview, and I like integral theory or spiral dynamics to explain those different levels. But then they've just created dogma or belief out of their, they've created a new cult, so to speak, a new belief system, a new operating system, and everybody's kind of, giving each other that, you have that kind of cultish interplay and what's the term I'm looking for there? Confirmation bias and all of that going on. And yeah, and so that becomes its own filter set. The academic filter set and what's in peer-reviewed papers, and what has been published, and the whole world of peer review and all of that. But when you really start to break it apart, you start to see that everything is subjectively biased. Everything. And just because a wave, like a mimetic wave, a philosophical, cultural mimetic wave, moves through society or moves through academia, and people pick it up and they're like, oh yeah, postmodern deconstruction, or oh yeah, this is cool, this is it, this is the thing. And then everybody picks it up, and so then everybody says, oh, this new thing is actually reality. But it's really just the new thing, and there's some reality in there, and then there's a whole lot of projection in there, and there's a whole lot of collective projection. And so everybody just kind of forms around that meme, that cultural script, and then they just load that into their operating system, and then they broadcast it out, and are you seeing this? Yes, I'm seeing it. Are you seeing it? It's kind of like, hey, did you see that movie? Did you see the, Scarface or whatever? Oh yeah, I saw it. Did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see it? And now we can all use, or The Matrix. Did you see The Matrix? Yeah, we saw it. Now we can all use those metaphors that were in that movie, and we can have a shared understanding because we've all seen that movie. But just because we have a shared understanding of something and we're all kind of in that same bias, using that same filter set, doesn't mean that it's any more objectively real than any other filter set. It's just another option. And but when you kind of realize this, that everything is like this, everything is every belief is just another filter set, and it's just subjectively interpreted, and that you never can really see objective reality. It's not even possible to see objective reality. Look at Bernardo Kastrup or Donald Hoffman talk about this. You're not even wired biologically to see objective reality. You're wired biologically to see what works for you in this environment and helps you survive and thrive in this environment. And if that means seeing grass is green, that means seeing grass is green, but that's not the way all organisms see grass, right? So everything about our perception has evolved to give us a reality that works well for us, not what is objectively real. So we don't even have the capacity as human beings to see objective reality. Now we can keep pursuing it and trying to find universality and trying to get as close to it as we can. But it's so easy to forget this, and it's so comfortable to snap into one of these filter sets, these cultural filter sets, and be like, this is it. I can relax now. I understand this. I understand the way the world works now. I understand human psychology now. I understand sociology. I understand politics better now. Because of this. No one wants to constantly be in this state of constantly reevaluating every single day. But that is the way you have to be. And you have to learn if you're on the evolutionary path. If you're on the evolutionary path, not everybody's on the evolutionary path. Some people evolve just through circumstance, wakes them up from time to time. They go wake up and they go, oh, okay, and they do naturally evolve that way. But they're not consciously trying to evolve. They're not alchemists. They're not like in the laboratory of psychospiritual evolution. For those of us who are, we have to stay in the question always. Just everything is a question all the time. Okay, this looks like this might be reality. It is for me for right now. And then I'll transcend that. There's that very sort of infamous quote by John Lilly, and you could probably find it on his Wikipedia page or something like that. And I can't, maybe I'll go look it up right now, but it's, we have never seen, Stephanie says, we've never seen anything outside of our own perception of it. Yeah, we haven't. We've never seen anything other than what we've perceived. Let me pull this up and I'll read you this John Lilly quote. John Lilly quote. It's not even coming to mind what it is, but it's, in the province of the mind. Okay. It's a little complicated quote, actually, but the point of it is really good. In the province of the mind, what one believes to be true either is true or becomes true within certain limits. These limits are to be found experimentally and experientially. When so found, these limits turn out to be further beliefs to be transcended. In the province of the mind, there are no limits. So when you use your, you experimentally and the limits are to be found experimentally and experientially. Find what the limits of a belief system are. And then when you find out what they are and you have a new recognition of a new plateau, oh, okay, now I see what I couldn't see before. That's great, you've made progress. And then you're going to have to scrap that. And you're going to have to throw that away and find another level of understanding. And that's going to go on forever. And then there's no limits. It goes on forever. So it really is a simulation. But yeah, and then academics, they forget that. They know that. You could explain that to anybody with a PhD. They know all this. They can understand what we just said there. They can recognize, yeah, that is the case. They can look at the published, work on neurophysiology and psychology and all of this. Yeah, that's true. Everything I just said is true. But then they just go about their day and living their life as though it's not true. And that is kind of the way we kind of have to be, in a way. You kind of have to be like, I'm going to suppose that what I see and what I'm perceiving is real, more or less, and act upon that basis. You kind of gotta have to do that, but you always want to keep it in your mind. I recognize that when something isn't working, it's probably because I don't see the full picture and I need to, go to the next level. Okay. Does anybody want to call me? Does anybody want to call me, or you guys want to just hang out and listen? And that's fine too. And I recognize that that's how call-in shows are. Most people don't want to call in just for, like I said before, various reasons. And you're not in a place where it's a good thing to do or whatever. But let's see if somebody's texted me. Okay, let's see. Look, this is Monica. I can call in. I had some Monica. Okay. Let us see if this works. If 7:34, she sent me that 30 minutes ago. I'm going to call her because this is kind of the procedure I'm going to try to use here. And let's see if this works. Let us see. Let's see what happens here. See if she answers. I know I got to turn the volume up here. So, are you there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, you're live. So,
hello, fellow alchemists.
Yes. So you want to try to kind of, speak up and be clear and all that. And so, but I got your volume jacked up and you should be coming through.
Okay, let me just get my earbuds in and then I'll be ready to go.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so this is working so far at least. And so Monica and I, we know each other through Facebook. She's another alchemist, another individual on the path, trying to figure it out, trying to evolve herself, work through her shadow junk, like we all are. And I think I might have gave her a pep talk yesterday.
Yes, you definitely did. And it felt like I had mentioned to you last night, because I'll be honest, I was feeling some resistance.
Yeah, that's good. That's normal, I should say. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And I was just like, okay, but then it was as if a gate had opened,
mm-hmm.
where I became so aware and so present and was really listening to what you were telling me about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seemed to click something on in my brain.
What part of it do you think clicked something?
I think that what it was is after we went through, an exercise that you had recommended to me that related to planting seeds of inspiration, passion, as a way to, I want to say, to shift my state so that I wasn't feeding a complex that has had a hold on me. And then when we went deeper into the nature of the complex, and you had even said something to the effect of if you were to look at all your journals or look back on your life and kind of create a caricature of this complex and start to become aware of when it's actually active.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that I actually did that last night. I did a whole exercise where I was attempting to identify it so that I can become aware of when it's active.
Right. Your so-called pain body or whatever, shadow complex has been kind of kicking on you repeatedly over and over cyclically in life.
Correct.
Yeah.
And today I had an experience actually where I became aware and I started to go into my old reaction. Like it was a block that I encountered. I'd been dealing with, I'd filed bankruptcy this year and was still receiving, bills from this bank account. And I'm like, this should be closed. So I called them and I'm like, why is this open? And they're like, it doesn't look closed. So now I realize I have now another whole set of things that I have to do to get that resolved. But
okay,
those types of things would set me into a state of despair. I can't ever get ahead. There's always this thing, and there's just a constant set of hurdles and obstacles. And then I started to feel those feelings, and then I stopped. And I was like, somehow I must have, done the wrong address, or I didn't do my research enough, and it didn't get sent to the right place. And that's the complex working in my recent past to create this obstacle that I'm dealing with, and I'm now feeling
it either influenced you to put the wrong address on the envelope, or it actually even stretched out into the greater field and influenced you that way, because it'll do that too. Yeah,
exactly. And so then I realized, I was like, okay, so now how can I react differently to it and not, basically not generate that same fuel for it to exist and to continue to operate in my life, because it is about making it conscious, right? And so I think that's
Yes.
what clicked in our conversation yesterday. It was like, you were pointing out, you had shared your history of dealing with your complex, and it was very similar to stuff that I've been through and worse, and just a variety of things, because clearly we've got these deep lessons to learn, right?
Right.
And I don't know, it's like, something just opened up and I could see another layer of the game, and and I'm like, okay, so now I know like how I need to slowly start to stop feeding it, and how I need to change how I'm reacting, and what my actions are going forward. And really, I think what it is just becoming so awake and lucid in your life that you're not necessarily reacting to things. You're observing what's going on.
That's right.
And you're totally present.
And you notice how you were going to spiral down into some kind of grief or anxiety or fear or anger or all those in combination. And then if you put a pause on it, you just become aware of it and stop, you can feel how that part of your physiology is actually addicted to those things, and it wants to actually feel those things.
Yeah.
The pain body itself is actually, it's like in a conspiracy world, in red pill world, it's a false flag operation. It sets off a bomb somewhere to get you to react in a way that benefits it. And then and then you feed it your grief, your anxiety, your despair, your fear, your anger, and then it gets a meal. So when you cut it off, it will, now you're at the place where you start cutting this thing off and you start becoming aware of it. And then now you're starting to starve it. And so you kind of have to be prepared for some kickback.
Yes, because it's fat. It is nice and fat right now. And it has a voracious appetite. And I'm realizing that because I'd made a lot of headway in certain areas. And every time I've ever tried to really flip the script of my life, because I'm constantly, trying different techniques and methodologies. Yes. One of the last ones that I did is called Mind Power, and it's a whole program where, you are journaling and you're repeating different things and you're setting specific intentions. And every time I've ever attempted to do that, and I was like developing a foundation with it, something in my life just totally blew up.
Exactly.
And derailed it.
Yep. I know how it is. Melissa knows all about that, or did know all about all that. Yep. And I think those of us who are kind of talking with each other, I think we're all kind of in the same class in Earth School.
I think so. And I recently met a gal this weekend too, who I'm going to turn her on to your podcast now as well, because I think that she would benefit from it. But there was one other thing that happened after our conversation, and it was when I went to bed, and then I ended up waking up at like 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. Oh. And so I was doing, there was just a lot, internally. You'd given me a lot of things to process. I had
it was kind of a big data dump, and you were just listening, and I can get kind of forceful and stuff, and so
Well, I think it was the medicine I needed, and that you're willing to do that, and I appreciate that you did, because I think I needed that kind of breakthrough in my awareness. And so then I woke up and I've had this pain in my neck, and it's just the right side of my body is guarding me, because it's part of potentially the complex, as well as just my physiology, my posture from having to protect myself my whole life.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
Very, very painful experience. And it almost feels like something's just kind of like clenching onto me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what it felt like was that clenching relaxed. And I woke up this morning and I don't have that same crazy sharp pain. Right.
It moved. Right.
It moved.
Abated. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like, I feel like because I am like now bringing these things into my conscious awareness, and I can start to, I'm not even saying like form a relationship with it. It's not about shaming myself or trying to annihilate a part of myself, right? It's about becoming aware of what is the underlying operating system.
Yes.
And then making those adjustments, which is what, you kind of coached me on.
That's what we're doing. Right, exactly. Yeah, you're trying to figure out what your quote unquote pain body profile is. Right? Like what is it addicted to? What does it want to eat? And it wants to eat the negative states that you find yourself falling into from time to time or repeatedly. That's what it's eating. And so you can actually kind of catalog those emotions, those shadow states, and then you can trace those back down to early life or into your parents' life, and you can get acquainted with those things. And this is why I was talking about the emotional processing, where you kind of just get in touch with these feelings and cry or let them come up, because it's like right now I'm kind of imagining it like an underground kind of geyser or volcano, and there's like magma down there or whatever. It's like if these energies are all underground, then the complex, it's like, okay, let's do it like this. IFS. So you have a trauma, and then the trauma can't be handled by the child, and so the psyche dissociates and splits, and now you have it's funny because the word complex is basically just an organ of the psyche, but then it's usually used with a negative in a pejorative way. But so the organ or the network or whatever of the psyche is split up, and now it can't self-regulate the way it normally would. And so it actually forms a kind of a maladaptive system for getting its physiological chemical needs met. And it's like drug use. You didn't get oxytocin from your mother, and so you get addicted to heroin so that you can get that dose. It's a workaround. And so the complex, by triggering these experiences that make you feel, it's like it's moving energy through a pathway that's the wrong pathway. And so how do you got to retrain that. So can you take that energy voluntarily and access it and pull that shadow energy into your consciousness and process it through your consciousness, through your thinking, through your emotional state, through your feeling, through writing, through making art, through talking to other people about it. Pull it up out of the unconscious and into consciousness, where it can dissipate and it can move, and give that psychophysiological energy a pathway up that isn't going to, cause an explosion, or it's not going to need to. You're basically depriving the system of its maladaptive technique that it was using to move energy. And you can almost look at it even almost in a kind of a positive light, as you can almost say, what if you talked to the complex and it said, I'm just here to process the energy that you don't know how to process. Until you find a better way to move this energy, I'm going to be here doing this. What if that was the answer the complex gave you?
Well, and that's what you essentially were telling. It kind of changed my whole paradigm of thinking of how I am to approach this now.
Yeah.
Because before, yes, I've done all this work. I've done somatic healing. I've done all these things, but I don't have a something to have a core anchor for where that energy can grow something, right? And that's what we discussed yesterday, is like identifying a passion and identifying the reality that I want to create, the vision that I want for my life.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have that vectored in and I don't have something to focus on in that way, then it will be dispersed. It's like it's like a leaky circuit. And so it's just dispersing this energy in a way that's not helpful or not beneficial to me.
Yeah, I hear you and I understand what you're saying exactly, but I tend to kind of split these things up, and I don't know if other listeners to the show are able to comprehend what we're saying right now, because we're kind of going off of our prior conversation. But I'll bring them up to speed. So what we said was that, okay, so how to do this? You got the pain body situation, and you got it triggering nasty circumstances in life so that it can get fed on grief and guilt and fear and anxiety and all this other stuff. And you have that, and that's kind of that's this shadow system that's kind of just running and been running. And so we have the situation where that material needs to find a pathway into consciousness, through you have to kind of build that pathway. And then you have this they're related, but they're actually not one system, and that is your actual creative destiny in life. And what we were talking about last night is finding your passion and stuff. And because what you've been doing is that the complex has been so active lately that it's got you caught up in responding to it, with, this lawsuit or this auto situation or this job situation or this rent situation, all these kinds of things. And you're just kind of in the matrix world, having to kind of like patch up all these holes and scramble back and forth and all that stuff. And that's taking up your attention. But then your actual creative passion / destiny in life is kind of sitting on the shelf. And so I said, what if you just pull that off the shelf, reanalyze that, and go, okay, because I've been so distracted in keeping up with the complex that let me pull my shadow, your golden shadow is what it is. It's the golden shadow. Pull the golden shadow out and figure out what are the dimensions of the golden shadow, and then start putting that into your schedule, into your time, into your consciousness, into your attention, and start building on that. You're definitely still going to be doing the maintenance work on waking up to the complex and working with it, not reacting to it, and finding a better pathways for that lower energy to come up. That's all going to be happening simultaneously, but you definitely don't want to just keep the golden shadow in the shadow. You want to pull the gold out and start working with that, so that, because by the very nature of things energetically, the golden shadow actually is like kryptonite to the complex. So the more attention you can put on that and building that up, that's actually going to be, because that's all heart-based stuff, and that's basically because, like I told you, the heart is toxic to the virus, quote unquote. That's going to start to, it's going to start to shift your whole consciousness in that direction. You still are in Earth School, and you still gotta, and this class is still going on. So just because you say, oh yeah, I remember what I always wanted to do, I'm going to focus on that now, it doesn't mean this other thing just jumps in the water and swims away. It doesn't. But now you actually have a lot more energy. It's like I was telling you about being a musician, and I was getting just attacked constantly when I was on my musician path. The thing that made it all tolerable was that the musician world was was working. It was, things were happening, and it was up and down, of course, but I was on a trajectory. I was in a flow, and I was going in that direction, and I could feel that flow, and it was pulling me. You know, my big S self, so to speak, in Jungian language, was pulling me in that direction, and I felt that natural destiny towards music. And so all the yucky crap that was happening, all this ghetto crap that was happening to me, was tolerable because I had my passion on tap.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I still have a lot of damage control.
I know you do. I know you do.
With the complex, but it shifted something. So I just wanted to share that, and I'm not sure that it was contributing to the fuller conversation of
it is,
because I know you were talking.
Oh, it's great.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, I love this. So. Yeah, yes. So because we've had, how many conversations have we had? Like 5, maybe?
Yeah, like 5 or 6, but yeah, around there.
Right, and they're usually like long, and I've told you about this in every one of those, and just like from a different angle. I just have to kind of creatively kind of get into it from a different angle and what's appropriate, and go into this and use different analogies and stuff that come to me and stuff, and you always get it, but then when we have another conversation, I say, remember, blah, 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 blah. And then you go, oh, yeah. And so now I think it's just like after doing this you're really, because the complex pushes back on your ability to remember and cognize, even though you are extremely smart and have an analytical mind, and you can easily understand all of this psychological mapping. It still is pushing back. And so, but the more we talk about it, and the more you try on these ideas and start looking at them and going, oh, okay, and start using this filter set, the more you start seeing through it, and then the more it starts to click, and then you can start it'll just become part of your way of being, and you'll just have this toolkit that you can just keep using.
Yeah, and like you had said too, before I came on, that we're going to always be asking those questions, you know, about what is the reality teaching us right now?
Yeah.
And what is my perspective of it, and why am I experiencing kind of like a system, a correspondence system, as within, so without.
Right.
Like, what is this teaching me right now, and how do I need to adjust the volume on this and to get the result that I want, versus, you know, continuing to react in this same way, or responding, or going into this vice, or getting lured in by something that's not going to actually be beneficial to me in the long term and what I'm trying to build. So
right, exactly. and then once you have your gold, you know, in mind, and like I was saying before, you're feeling it in your body, and you're like, okay, this is, like we talked about. I personally, I think your idea of being being a curator for people's very high experiences that they want to have, kind of like it's like a fifth dimensional travel agent, or whatever we call this. You know, you help people curate these experiences, and hook them up with these different, you know, whether it's vacations or retreats or experiences that they get to experience. You're basically, yeah, like I don't know what you call this. Like I said, you have to figure out what this is called, because people are already doing this. But that idea is something as what to do with your creativity and your talents is just fantastic. That's just a fantastic thing, and it's just and so if you just start orienting your life in that direction. It's like I was saying, if that was out, if you had that vision out of the closet before, and you were taking that vision seriously, you would, and you're like looking for a new job, the job you would be looking for, even if it isn't that particular job, because that's something you have to actually create out of scratch, kind of. But the jobs that you would be looking for would be jobs on that path.
Yeah.
And so, right, you'd be like, okay, well, I need a new job. And so it would be like travel agent or something like that, or something that puts you closer to that creation. And you wouldn't be getting distracted off with other stuff like, working for this guy on the, doing air conditioning repair and stuff, because that just has nothing to do with your vision.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody else wanted to connect with you. But I was able to share.
Thank you for calling, Monica. Yeah, and call in anytime, and I really appreciate you, and I really we're the kind of people who are on this path and then have this kind of a mind like you have, or like my friend Stephanie has, and a few other people, and now I see more people are coming into this, and they have this kind of mind, and they can understand these kind of things, and this is their world too. It's great. We are the alchemists, and so I just the more work we can do together and share experiences, the better for everybody.
Yeah, I really appreciate you too, Colin, and thanks for helping me with a little breakthrough yesterday, because I feel different today. I feel, it's wonderful. So
keep working on that gold. I think that's really, it's the two sides of the process here.
Okay, very well.
Okay, talk to you soon.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye. Well, that was a success. Let's see if anybody else wants to. We have some more time. If you guys want to call, if anybody wants to call, let's see. That was on my Google Voice one, my Google Voice. At my WhatsApp one, nobody's on there. So how was that, folks? Were you guys, use the text box or whatever and let me know, like, what did you guys think about that conversation with Monica? And was that understandable without a whole lot of background? Did you guys catch what's going on there? Yeah. So, so this is, I'm kind of supposing that people kind of not know what this is, some of the terminology and everything. But I really like Eckhart Tolle's understanding of the pain body, because he describes it very clearly and in easy to understand language. And I think it's in his first book, The Power of Now. There's a chapter on the pain body. And then in his second book, there's two chapters, chapter 5 and 6. That one's called A New Earth. That's the one I usually tell people to get. And read that. And that's his explanation of what Jung would call an autonomous complex. Or what would be described in IFS, internal family systems, as dissociated parts. And there's the parasite understanding is kind of negative, kind of makes the whole thing look like a demon. Whereas in the IFS parts understanding, because all we have is these analogies, all we have is these analogs that we can use, these overlays. But in the IFS understanding, you anthropomorphize your psychic parts as like little people, little child parts, and they're playing different roles, and it's a kinder and more friendlier way of looking at parts of yourself that are kicking back or that are antithetical to your destiny, to your a healthy orientation in life. And so so that's another way of looking at it. But we were using the kind of the pain body type understanding, although I think she likes the term complex. That seems to work. So whatever works. And these complexes, these are the interference patterns, or parasitic, I guess you could say, systems within our own psyches that have their own agendas. And in the Jungian sense, I think they kind of went back and forth just between calling this kind of activity the shadow, and they would usually allow people to see the shadow as like a man would see it, as like a dark man or dark woman or something in your dreams. And so it would either be the shadow or a complex, and it's kind of like not really quite totally clear of. I'd say a complex is in the shadow. That's the way how I would say it. But yeah, so there's a lot of that material in Shadow Tech in our book. Yeah, I should maybe, did I show you guys the cover of the book or anything like that? So if this book here, Shadow Tech, you got to get this one from Amazon. See, it's back here. This book you have to get on Amazon. And this is the book that I wrote with Melissa. And there's an interview with Melissa in the back. And the paperback version has an extra chapter called Living in the Movie. And then there's this other one where I tried to clarify a lot of this material on the shadow. And I put this one in Transforming Darkness. And this one I give away for free on the website. So you go to shadowtechalchemy.com and go to the books page, and you just sign up for the mailing list, and you can get the link to the PDF of this thing, or you can get it on Amazon. And this one, I really tried to kind of clarify these understandings of these autonomous complexes. And there's a whole chapter on autonomous complexes, and I relate it to, I sort of synthesize a number of people's understandings into one chapter. And there's some other new material. There's the Shadow in 4 Quadrants using Ken Wilber's system. And then there's a chapter on shadow work practices. And I use the 4 Quadrants system to give you shadow work practices in all 4 quadrants. And I'll be talking more and more about that as we go on. But there's all kinds of stuff to get started with in terms of shadow work in there that's will give you years worth of work to do. But yeah, so let's see where we are. Let me check in with make sure everything's, I think we're still going. And this thing says upcoming. So yeah, this whole thing with I know the whole thing's working. Even though I go to YouTube and it says that it's not. But let me go over here to LiveStream and see what this thing's saying. Right. So anyway, stream started. So anyway, we are trying to figure it out, trying to make it work, trying to get the bugs worked out here. And this is what Melissa and I would call the virus, right? The virus. This is sort of the let's see here. Now I'm on the live chat. Yeah. So forgive me. Let me look at my thing. Yeah, I'm live. Okay. No, I am live. So this is just, I just got to get used to this situation here, not really being able to see, where you're at and what's going on. And I'll get it figured out. It's complicated. I've made it more complicated than necessary, probably because I wanted this call-in thing. And then I was using Zoom to stream, and then I was using Restream, and then now I'm using OBS through Restream, and blah, blah, blah. And then that didn't work, and so I had to use Zoom again, and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm going to get it down, though. And I like this. The call-in thing is amazing. And it's actually a lot easier, I think, for people to just call in than it is for me to put them into a Zoom meeting and have them bring them in and be like that. And even just listening, just using voice. I still really like phone calls. I like phone calling more than I like video conferencing. Because with the phone call, it's like you don't have that added distraction of the whole video thing and all of that. And so you can really just tune in to the other person just auditorily. And you can just really get deep. And you can really, and maybe, I don't know, maybe because I'm an audio engineer and I'm a musician and I'm very oriented, auditorily. But yeah, the phone call to me, or just the audio only conversation, is kind of the ultimate, really. And so I think this is just the way to go. And I'll actually, I'm going to get it to the point to where it's like really pro, just because I'm an audio engineer and I got a little mixer here and I got some stuff, but it's not fully pro yet. I'm going to get it there, and that'll be really cool. I will get it to the point to where I can pop you in on video, or I can pop you in on audio, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And so I may need 2 screens. Yeah, I definitely may need 2 screens, but here's the thing, is that I was thinking to myself, can I make it, I tried using an iPad for a second screen, that wasn't working so well. I want to make it so that I can actually, if I have to go, because I have to go on tour sometimes with my band, and if I have to leave, probably I'll just do it through a phone. I'll probably just do the broadcast through a phone, and then I'll probably just, do it like through Zoom or something, and I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out at that point, how I'm gonna do it. But I'll have a mobile version of it, because I was gonna say, I don't want to make it so that it's the only way I can do this is with just all this gear. I kind of want to make it so that it's like I can put it all in a bag, and then I can kind of do it wherever and still have the functionality that I have now. Maybe that's not possible. Maybe I do need another screen. Maybe I need a more, a better, more elaborate mixer than the one I have now, which is like a Mackie. What is this, like 1604, something like that? I don't know what it is. It's a small 12. I don't know. It's a Mackie mixer, a smaller one. But yeah, so I'm going to do something right here. I'm going to go Solutio LiveStream Test Monday. No, I'm not going to touch anything. How's that? I'm not going to touch anything while it's going. So, because we are about 15, 17, 18 minutes from the end of the stream, I don't think I'm going to just go on. How about this? I will talk from my notes here. Or if you guys have anything that you want to talk about, just put it into the chat and we'll go over that. We'll talk about that. And in the meantime, I will, I'll tell you some more. I was telling you earlier, don't be a proselytizer for your truth, and make your findings your religion. Just stay in the question. And I'm taking that advice. But at the same time, there is an aspect of me that's kind of is a missionary. This is why I was shown those guys, because I needed to see the dark side of being a missionary. And so, although everything that Melissa and I developed was primarily for ourselves, it's to answer all these questions about the shadow, just about the nature of evil, the relationship between evil and the shadow, and how the psyche works, practices to clean yourself up, and all this stuff, and the nature of reality, what we call living in the movie. Although it was really for us, it was our trip, it was our life art, that's what she called it. There's a social side to it too. And so just, being here and having a broadcast and supporting you guys is serving that function. But there's another part of me that wants to kind of put together like a manifesto, which I've actually kind of done. So, so there is a part of me that says, hey, look, here's something I developed that might work for you. Why don't you check it out, see if it works for you, adapt it to yourself if necessary, and then start using it, right? And so that's what I was doing with the books. I was moving in that direction. But now I've been doing this thing with the 4 quadrants, and I think that's making it all even clearer. And so I did this last week. I'm going to put the 4 quadrants on the screen, and the 4 quadrants are designed in a very simple way here. I could use much more developed terminology. Let's see, where are the 4 quads? But there we go. But this is just so elegant. This is Ken Wilber's invention, and anybody can put whatever they want to in the 4 quadrants. I made it kind of artistic and put it in a Celtic cross or whatever. I'm putting homo bilancia, Melissa's term for balanced mankind, into this heuristic, into this tool. And this is what's coming out. And so what Ken Wilber described, what Ken Wilber said, was that every study of anything in the universe, really, that a human gets involved in, they're always looking at it from one of 4 perspectives. There's one of 4 major perspectives in which people understand things. And he said it's first person, second person, third person, and third person plural. And so what that translates into is an I perspective, a we perspective, an it perspective, and an its perspective. And so when, whatever subject you put in there, like, so he puts, you can put any subject in there. And so I put this subject of individuation, of inner development and shadow work into this. I have another one where it's, I'll show you, it's where I put the shadow in there. Let's do that. Let's put the shadow one up first. I'll just end this whole broadcast talking about the 4 quadrants. So the first thing I did is I put the shadow into the 4 quadrants. The archetype of the shadow. So you got the personal shadow is in the I. It's your personal subjective state. What is the shadow inside my psyche and the inside of me, my personal mind or psyche? What's in there that's shadowy? And so that's where you're doing all the well-described shadow work that's out there. And you're analyzing all of the dark things that come up, whether in life or in dreams or through projections. You're learning something about how projection works, and you're seeing your own shadow in other people. You're using other people as a mirror to read what's in your own shadow, and you're analyzing this material. You're feeling it. You're bringing it up. You're doing whatever shadow work practices that you're doing, and we'll be talking about all that kind of stuff. But so that's the shadow in me, inside of me. And then in the we quadrant, the lower left-hand quadrant, that's we is the collective culture. It's the collective values, the collective belief systems, and the shared values that we have as a culture. Because the culture is basically the collective mind. It's, everything that's in the personal mind makes its way into the culture, and then everything in the culture makes its way into the personal mind. It's one big ecosystem of mind and culture mind. And but in the we quadrant, lower left-hand quadrant, this is where we're dealing with aspects of the shadow as they manifest collectively. And so this is where, you get all the different isms, all of the different shadowy, the fascism and the Marxism, or the shadow side of these isms, I should say. The shadow side of communism and capitalism and corporatism and all these kinds of things. These are these, and the various beliefs, like you can take these, let's say I'm an American, so I know very well these different American beliefs about the American dream and the rugged individualist and all of that and progress and growth and all the stuff that we have focused on. Well, there's a shadow side to all those values, or the shadow side to Christian values. And so this is where you're analyzing the shadow side of your cultural value set. And this is where, a lot of red pill. I got a red pill in that quadrant, because there's a lot of red pill people that are looking at all that, and all the different like wokeism is like a new one. It's a very shadowy kind of form of feminism, I guess it is. It's like that's what it rode in on, and and it's related to what they call fourth wave feminism. It's very shadowy, and so we're looking at that. That's that quadrant, and then we're in the upper right hand quadrant. That's the put my glasses on. That's the individual exterior. So these other two quadrants are interior. They're mental, they're psychic, they're emotional, they're internal to the human being. And on the right side of the square, you have the external. So in the personal external, that's the body. So the shadow manifests in the body as your symptoms, as your disease, right? As your behavioral dysfunction, right? As all the things that can go wrong in the body. And so when you're working with that, you're working with health, you're working with diet, you're working with exercise, you're working with getting your body clean and strong and healthy in all the ways that you do that. And you're dealing with addictions and all that, which are kind of a mix between the upper left and the upper right. And then the bottom right-hand quadrant, what I called the collective deep state, is basically the shadow side of civilization itself. Civilization as a physical thing. You have cities with government buildings and courts and libraries and school systems and the tax assessor's office and everybody else and all that, and the police station, and then the actual jobs that everybody's doing, and all of the different physical things that make up what you call the matrix, what you call the world, the actual human created world. And it's got a shadow side. And the red pill people are always looking at that too. All the different ways in which you have government fraud and all the military industrial complex and the pharma complex and all the different complexes. And it's funny because it's these complexes. Eisenhower called it the military-industrial complex, and it's just an external realization of a state of being inside of our own psyches. It's a complex that we all share in our own psyches. It's a psychological complex projected into the world. And so in that quadrant, we're looking at all that stuff, all the different ways in which the actual society is set up parasitically. And so this is a 4-quadrant shadow work practice, shadow work system. And you can just go into it, and you can start working on something in each of those quadrants. They all have to be worked on. You can't work on your personal shadow through some Jungian techniques or other techniques and then not, and ignore the body, or ignore your actual, how you're living your life in the bottom right-hand quadrant, the job that you're working at, and the physical way that you're actually living in the world, your actual footprint in the world, or any of these quadrants. So you have to address them all. They're all one, this is all one thing, and we just myopically focus on one of these quadrants. Whichever one we're most comfortable with is what we focus on. So now I can take, that's the shadow one. And so this perspective here is basically same thing, but it's just saying it's more focusing on the health side of things. So on the upper left-hand quadrant, this is where you're working on your inner state, you're individuating. In the lower left one, you're analyzing your beliefs, your values, your ethics. Like if you go to soluciopodcast.com, I put up my own psychosocial manifesto of ethics. I put my ethics down on paper. And so that's a great exercise that people can do. You can write down, what are my beliefs? What are my values? What are they? If I were going to create a constitution for a new nation, what would it be? What would I put in there? And so that's a good practice. You can do that. And so I wrote in the corner in the corner of that one, lower left-hand quadrant, shadow aware values. Going to Eric Neumann's work, Depth Psychology and a New Ethic. We have to move into a new ethic of shadow aware living. And then I've got physical body, upper right-hand quadrant, clean and healthy body, that's obvious. And then like I was saying before, your worldly footprint, and an actual, analyzing how you're interfacing with the world, your job, your buying habits, and your how you're actually, your actual physical footprint, your environmental footprint, and your so-called matrix footprint. Where are you going to school? What are you studying? Where are you working? Where are your kids going to school? All that's got to be analyzed. That's all got to be symbiotic as possible. So it's a 4-quadrant view, a holistic view, an integral view of bringing yourself into relative balance. And now you're not part of the problem so much. You're less of the problem. You're part of the solution. Solutio. So there you go. And that's actually on the soluciopodcast.com website. I think those 2 charts are on there, and a bunch of other stuff is on there, so people can check that out. All right, well, I think we're gonna end it for tonight. And I do believe that I'm going to be back on Saturday at 1 p.m. I don't know what the success of that's going to be in terms of viewership or callers, but it's my goal, my commitment to do these four a week on Tuesday nights for the North Americans, and then 2 a month for the Europeans, or North Americans and South Americans, and then 2 a month for the Europeans, and then just keep at it until people figure out that this is going on. And because there are enough of us that are doing this work to have a good, lively show about this. And I just don't want to have a show that's only about me talking about everything. I want it to be about 50-50, because I've been doing that for years, and I really want it to be more of a community thing, like I keep saying. So thank you all, and there you go. And think about calling in next week. So the numbers are on the soluciopodcast.com webpage. And so yeah, I'll be live this Saturday, which will be the first Saturday of the month, at 1 p.m. Central, Texas time, which is 8 p.m. in Berlin. If anybody knows anybody that might want to come on this call and participate, let them know. And if you guys in America or Canada or this part of the world want to come back on Saturday, that's great. Love to have you. So oh, good. Well, thank you so much. I never wanted a handle. It's funny. You love it and you're excited about the vision. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And you just let me know whatever I can do for you. Whatever I can do for you. You can send me comments, questions, privately. You can send me emails ahead of time if you have ideas for what you want to talk about. Even if you don't want to call in, you want me to address something, just get in touch with me, and we'll do that. And we'll keep going. So thank you for hanging out with me. And I'll get the technical stuff worked out. And now let me sign off and figure out how to do that. So thank you guys, and I will see you Saturday or next Tuesday. Let's see how to do this. How do you turn it off? That is so funny. Oh, do I just... There we go.